Hello and welcome back to the game room. You know what I love? Video games. You know what I love? Talking about games. And it seems like a lot of people these days who cover games seem to hate them. Or at least the people who play them. Well, that's not me, and that's not the 2,767 of you beautiful people checking out this video here today. We are under 250 subs to 3,000, which would be 1,000 sub jump since January. Thank you, Xbox 360. Thank you to all the new subscribers. And also, thank you to the commenters because you guys taught me something last week. So my copy of Remember Me, on the back it says, read inside case for information, which means that's what all this is, and means there's no manual here in North America. Apparently there's a PAL version of Remember Me that came with a manual. So this one is CIB regardless, which I know around 2011, 12, 13, that's when more companies started doing that. In fact, one of these games is one of those instances. Anyways, we are going to be digging this well as deep as it goes. This is part 7, I think. More Xbox 360 games you should go panic buy before the FOMO runs out, the store is done, and all these games are more expensive. Let's check it out. There's a lot of games out there, some of which you've never even heard of. That's where I come in. My name's Luke. I've been playing games since the age of 2, and I have no life.
This is my game room.
Alright, so I started this week with probably one of the worst games I've played, but also one that is probably going to be going up in price because of, well, here's the game, X-Blades. So in this game, which is from South Peak Games, which the more and more I get into the Xbox 360 library, the more I keep seeing South Peak Games, and it's usually not a good thing. If anything, South Peak Games is kind of getting an LJN reputation. I want to say they were also Darkest of Days and a couple other ones, maybe Stormrise. But anyways, X-Blades. Basically, in this game, you play as hot girl wearing bikini armor with a thong on. It's kind of level-based, so it's not a continuous story. The hit detection when you hit enemies feels about as great as Legend of Excalibur on PS2, which for longtime fans of the channel know, not that great. It's a really dumb hack and slash. Like, this is, I think I got this for $15. It's going up around $20, $35, something of that nature. I mean, obviously, another horny boy game. That's kind of what it is, but it has some merit. I got about 4 stages in, but on the 4th stage, you have to fight some giant dragon thing that seems to be invulnerable to being hit. As you progress, you unlock new abilities you can assign, and maybe there's some fun to be had there, but in the long scheme of things, it's probably one of the worst games I've played, guys. So other than this next game I'm going to talk about being tangentially related to it, yeah, but still worth having. I'll give it a fairer shot, but yeah, it's not very good. Really a kind of a bad game in my opinion. However, the spiritual successor, which was made by the same company, but unlike South Peak Games, this one was published by Konami. And probably because the first game was kind of a testing ground for Blades of Time, which more or less, I think it stars the same character. It's got that same vibe. You know, still got a little of the DNA from the previous game, but a much more focused story and much better combat. Far better combat, more in line with something like Darksiders. The way this game works almost has a Secret of Mana 2 or Trials of Mana feel, where the more you hit the enemies, you build up a combo meter, and then once you get to a certain point in that combo meter, you can unleash an ability. So either a giant freeze strike or a giant pull strike. Generally, they're just big AoE strikes. But it does this a couple of times. And if you build up your combo meter all the way to the end, then you open a heal. What's really cool, though, is that this whole thing called Blades of Time is that you have the ability to rewind time and then do things simultaneously with almost unlimited versions of yourself. So there's certain enemies that will have a shield that you need to overwhelm with not just you, but 3 or 4 different versions of you. But you gotta be careful. If you go too far back in time, you can resurrect dead enemies. So it's a nice system. And to be honest, I really was enjoying playing this. Compared to X-Blades, this is a phenomenal game. And I want to say, you can still find it about $20-ish. Pick this one up. This one definitely is going to go up once the quality of it gets out there, in my opinion. I liked it. One of the better games I've played in this whole journey, and one that I would like to go back and check out some more. It's not perfect. It's not without some jank. Let's be honest. Most of these games, other than a few exceptions, gonna have some jank. But this one's good. This one's very good and well worth picking up. Alright, speaking of another game that is kind of fun jank, this is a game called Venetica. So Venetica, every time I see a game that starts with V, it always piques my interest a little bit. And then, of course, you got a girl on the front with a sword. Okay, let's see what it is. It almost feels like a poor man's Oblivion, or one of those type of computer RPG, Western RPG influenced games. So you start the game, there's cheesy voice acting, cheesy cutscenes. There's a big knight character who is the love interest of this girl. He gets killed, saving her, and then tells her to live on. And then she suddenly picks up the sword and then finds out she actually is connected to some, I don't know, connected to death, and needs to go and save the world, basically. And one of the things you find out about is there's some blade called the Moon Blade. I'm assuming it's the blade she's holding, which has the power to kill the undead, and only you can find it. And one of the cool things about, in a game like this, when you find out there's some mythical weapon that you need to find, I don't know about you guys, but I generally don't assume you're going to find it within the first 2 hours of the game. In this one, you do. You go on a quest, you help these two cousins dispute a kind of like a land ownership, and then you have the ability to decide which cousin you went with. You can tell the truth, you can do this. So that's why I mean it's like a poor man's Oblivion, because you do have options. You can go and do these different things, but the combat is just pure hack and slash. There's a little bit of a dive roll, there's a little bit of this and that, but really it's one of those things where I didn't die once. But even if you do die, part of the gimmick of the game is that you can resurrect, kind of like Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, and that's where the Moonblade comes in, is that when you attack enemies, you can use a sword, you can use a hammer, or you can use that dagger, and when you use that dagger, you get purple life force, and that fills your circle that you can resurrect yourself. And it allows you to resurrect yourself twice, so it's a very generous game in that nature. Your inventory is very smartly designed. If you grab a dervish dagger and you have 9 of them, they just stack onto the same item slot instead of having 9 daggers in your inventory. So that's where it's got some good game design around it, but the whole of it is not going to be for everybody. Now, for myself, I enjoy this. I enjoyed the slower pace. The janky combat reminded me a little bit of classic WoW at times, but more action-based instead of the button-based. But I liked it. And for this is a game that if you're patient, you can find it for $20-$25. I think now you're seeing it around $32-$35 CIB. It is also available on PS3, which sometimes I see cheaper. But this is one that I recommend. Take it with a grain of salt. This game is not for everybody. Blades of Time, I think, is much more approachable. But Venetica, another game that I would like to go back and put more time into. Now, here's one that I got a great deal on. So every once in a while, you'll get lucky. So I placed an order for a game that did not say it was complete, did not say it was loose, but it was $18 for this game. And $18 was the loose price, but the seller, usually with these games, you have a better shot of getting them CIB. And that game is Wartech. Wartech, Senko, Ronde, however you say it. Now, the reason why I'm usually not interested in fighting games or fighters, especially not mech fighters, but when I saw the footage of it, it reminded me of a game called Fury, and I've heard a lot of people talk about this. Unfortunately, playing it, it does not play like Fury. So it's kind of like people who made Fury, which if you don't know Fury, it's a game on PS4, Switch, Xbox Series, all that. It's a game where you're kind of you have 2 stages. You have a bullet hell stage, and then you have a one-on-one combat stage. And this one, you you kind of look like you have both of those, but it is not nearly as much fun, not nearly as great. I've heard so many people say this game is incredible. I don't see it, guys. I don't know. So, in my opinion, that's why this game had rocketed up to around $80, $90, and now you can regularly find it for $60, $50. It's coming back down, and I think it's because the quality does not match the price, nor... But then again, I don't know. But I didn't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy it that much. Glad to have it. Glad I only got it. I mean, also for $18, yeah, it's CIB. So I got lucky. You get lucky every once in a while. You know, you overpay, you underpay. This is one of those times. I just wish I had underpaid on, you know, Cold Step Saga instead of Wartech. But hey, we'll take it. So yeah, that's another one. That one's on the come down. At least it seems to be. All right, now here's one that nobody is talking about, and probably for good reason, but I looked into it, and I saw this at my local game store, and I didn't pick it up. Because it wasn't, I don't know, I just didn't pick it up just because I'm like, whatever, that's random. And then when I went home, I'm like, wait, let's see if that, oh my god, that says it's like a $10 game, but the only ones you can find anywhere are like $40, $50. It is on the PS3 as well, but I'm looking for the Xbox ones, and I'm a huge fan of the television show it's based on, and that is Prison Break: The Conspiracy. Now, follow me here, guys. This show came out in 2005. It ran for 4 seasons and then was canceled. Surprisingly, it got a 5th season in 2016, but we're not going to talk about that. Basically, this game went into production right as the 4th season wrapped, and then this game came out a year after the show had been canceled. This game takes place during the 1st season of the show, which arguably is the best season. Seasons 1 and 2 are incredible. If you've ever, like, you can watch those 2 seasons, just imagine the end of season 2 ended a little differently. Like, trust me, you'll know what I mean. And that's a great series. It's one of those things where it did not need to keep going on. But this, I don't know what this was. So you're not playing as Michael Scofield. You're not playing as Lincoln Burrows. The plot of the story is that Lincoln Burrows kills the vice president's brother, but it's actually been... he's been set up. His younger brother, who designed the prison that his older brother is on death row at, gets himself arrested and put in that prison, and then it's going to be his job to help him escape. And that's the whole point of the game. Well, in the show, in this game, you don't play as either of them. You play as a guy from the secret company that set up Lincoln Burrows to observe and make sure they don't escape. So... very strange, because you already know, if you know the show, you already know what's going to happen. And they also got all of the voice and the actors from the show back, outside of Sarah Wayne Callies, who at the time was playing Lori in The Walking Dead. But you got Vibrut, you got Sucre, you got Teabag, you have C-Note, Lincoln, Schofield, the Belloc, all the main characters are back outside of Westmoreland. He's kind of the other one. Him, and then they also made Sarah Wayne Callies, who is the Nurse Tancredi. They made her blonde instead of redhead for some reason. Anyways, I'm getting way too much into this. The game is alright. It's kind of ironic because you're in the prison, so it's got a really slow, deliberate pace. It feels like the show. But then your guy kind of just walks everywhere, so you see these big pivotal moments from the show, and then there's just some dude observing, and he immediately goes to the phone and says, "Oh, Michael Scofield's trying to break out." I'm pretty sure prison phones are monitored for that kind of stuff, but he's just calling the secret agent and saying this is it. Like, instead, just play as Schofield. Have Schofield go and do all this stuff. I get that you want to get these big show beats in there. And also, the guy playing Peter Stormare, the guy playing Vibruzzi, if you guys know John Wick, he's the Russian guy. He does not sound like himself at all in this game.
Bello, let's see if you can swim, fish.
I don't know if he had a cold or what, because it does say it's him. It looks just like him. If you know the game Until Dawn, he's the guy between the different scenes. He does not sound like himself at all in this game. But yes, it's janky, it's funny, the AI is stupid. I like it, but I also love the show, and it's kind of like, it's fun for that. Like, I enjoy talking about it more than playing it. Like, this would be a game that would probably be a lot of fun to stream, or to, I don't know, it's somehow... it's stronger as a concept than it is as the game. And what's even funnier is looking into it, like the people who made this game loved it so much that they almost self-funded it. Like it lost its publisher midway through, and then they got someone else and finished it. And it just came out, and I remember the Lost game. The Lost game's terrible. I don't remember ever hearing about this or seeing it. So it might be rare, it might be uncommon. Pick it up if you see it. If you like the show, it's just kind of a fun novelty. Anyways, I've talked way too much about that game. Pick it up. All right, now here's one that reminds me a little bit like ActRaiser, but if ActRaiser did not kind of find a target audience, and that's what this game did. And I think there's one significant reason why it didn't. And we're talking about a game called Omerta City of Gangsters. So on paper, this sounds very interesting. It's kind of an isometric view of the city. You come in there as a fledgling crime boss and you're trying to take over the city. You can hold up speakeasies. It takes place in the 20s, back during Prohibition, so alcohol is illegal. You can hire goons, and then every once in a while you get into a combat stage that's set up a lot like a turn-based XCOM. Like, I was a little surprised. So it's a turn-based game, XCOM. You move. You have a certain amount of movement points, a certain amount of attack points. You can have your colleague, not your colleague, your henchman. But the thing that makes it not work, in my opinion, is when you're in the... So I guess when you're in the sim phase, when you're in the overhead map, you select objectives and you select jobs, but then you have to wait for your little character to run all the way from your base to that job. And so you're spending, I don't know, 30, 40 seconds waiting for that to happen. It happens, click, you move on. Also, the navigation of the menu is not great. There's a map on the screen, but it doesn't really... It doesn't completely correlate to the map itself. If you would just select a job, have it do it instantly, select a job, do it instantly, and then move to these map phases, I think this game would have been a banger, in all honesty. I mean, yeah, the XCOM stuff is not great, but just kind of like with ActRaiser, yeah, the action phases aren't great, the sim phases aren't great, but they're fast. There's not a lot of downtime. There's not a lot of twiddling your thumbs, and that's the problem with this game. Is there's a lot of time where you're just sitting there thinking, what the hell am I waiting for? What am I supposed to be doing? It told me to look for this. I can't find it. So ultimately, and it's a cheap game. I mean, I think you can find it brand new still for around $8-10. And do I see it going up? Possibly, because it is so unique. And once again, if I had nothing else to play, I could see myself really sinking my teeth into this. But because of that dead air, man, it just makes it so it's not for everybody. And unfortunately, that is one that I think there could have been a lot more potential. Now, here's a really good one. This one was recommended by you guys. I had seen this cover all the time, either in the Xbox store or in GameStop back in the day. It's an EA game. It's another 4-player co-op game, and that is Fuse. So the cool thing about Fuse is it really gives me more of a Left 4 Dead vibe than a Gears of War 3 vibe. Because you have 4 characters, but you can actually play with 4 people simultaneously, and you move through different missions, and each one of them has their own separate role as far as you find these kind of these new tech guns. So one can make people turn into crystals, one makes them turn into time warps, one has a giant shield that looks like Reinhardt from Overwatch, and then the third one has a flame gun that just like incinerates people. But if you're just playing it by yourself, now by the way, you can do couch co-op with 2 people, so that's cool. But while you're playing it by yourself, you can actually leap between all of your party members. So it's not just a game where you're playing as one person, a la Marcus Phoenix. You can bounce around to the other 3 people, meaning that you can give everyone a different loadout. So you can have a shotgun loadout on one, a sniper loadout on one, a shield, and you can revive each other. It's cool. It's a really fun game. And I got it, and this is the one I was talking about where it doesn't have a manual. So this right here has its instructions to download the digital manual. But on the back, it says read instruction manual for information. So that, I think, is where some of the miscommunication could happen. Oh, so it's Insomniac Games, too. So Insomniac Games, back when they were making games that, in my opinion, were better. So one that I would check out, I would definitely pick that one up. I think I got it for $11 or something like. It's not an expensive game right now, but I could see it going up there. And a lot of fun. Really cool. There's 6 different missions. Each one's broken out into different chapters. I made it through the majority of the first mission and already kind of saw where, I saw where I could, okay, this is fun. This is fun. Okay, now this one, when I picked up Naughty Bear Gold, the associate at the store told me about this game for the PS3. I don't remember if she told me it was on Xbox 360 as well, but she's like, if you like Naughty Bear Gold, you should look into this one. This one's also kind of zany. And I definitely gotta agree with that. It's not a great game, but it's another one of those weird games that I could see it going up. The way I think of it is, think of a Little Big Planet that's extremely violent, and that is Fairytale Fights. So I haven't heard anyone talk about this. You can find it still for $13, $20 complete. I think I got it for $15. And it's more or less, you can play as Little Red Riding Hood, Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk, Emperor from The Emperor's New Clothes, or The Emperor Has No Clothes, or Snow White. And there's some, and it reminds me of the Rabbids games. So it's got that Rabbids vibe as far as there's no dialogue, but there's people going like, whoa, like big expressions, big eyes. I don't know. I'd have to look. Maybe it's related to that more. But it reminds me of the Rabbids games, and you go into these different levels and you can find items, and it's almost kind of like a Lego game too, where if you die, nothing really happens to you. You lose your weapon, but then you can pick up a weapon. And the thing that makes it a lot of fun though is that there is dismemberment. So you can go and I was playing as Little Red Riding Hood, and I was attacking these lumberjacks and just slicing and dicing them over and over again. Now, there's not much else to it. The boss fight with the big beaver was really janky. And even looking at this, I think I might have some random French-Canadian copy, because it's got a different thing underneath here that I've never really seen. I don't know. But fun one to have, fun one I'm glad to have in the hopper. I think it's co-op too, which is nice. I'm finding a lot more co-op Xbox 360 games, so I think I will end up doing a video where I talk about some of the co-op games, like couch co-op, where you can play with someone in the room, in the house. But a one that I could see, like Naughty Bear Gold, I could see it going up because it is strange and no one's talking about it. I haven't seen anyone mention that game at all. It's about as good as Prison Break, though, so maybe there's a reason. Now, here's one that I have seen people talk about, and this game is incredible. I wanted to keep playing this. I've known about this game for years. I picked it up back at GameStop, and they didn't have the disc, so they gave me the case and manual for free. I finally, a few years later, broke down and just bought it off eBay, and that game is Enslaved: Journey to the West. And this game goes hard from the beginning. If anything, this reminds me a little bit of what Horizon Zero Dawn might have been inspired by, because instead, in that game, they just get rid of Monkey, and then you're playing as the redheaded girl. But more or less, you're in a post-apocalyptic world that seems to be controlled by robots. You're playing as this badass dude in a prison barge who then doesn't escape. The redhead girl escapes, and then constantly the whole time doesn't try to save you. The action is over the top, really great action combat. Enjoy, and super cinematic too. A little suspension of disbelief. Yeah, the guy's jumping from ledge to ledge on a flying airplane. Yeah, if you jumped, you would immediately fall to your death, but whatever, that doesn't matter. And then you crash land, and when you crash land, you wake up and you have this helmet on that basically makes you a slave. Hence the name Enslaved. And you're enslaved by the redheaded girl who really wanted nothing to do with you. But you kind of start forming a bond, I imagine, as the game goes on. And part of the thing I could see why people may not have liked the game or have been a little hesitant is that it does kind of seem like, oh my god, is this going to be an entire game that's just an escort quest? Because those are really annoying, because you need to make sure and keep her alive. I didn't find that at all, at least not in the beginning. There was a few where the hell do I go moments, jankiness, where I didn't know if I could pick her up, because you do have to pick her up and throw her at times to get through different areas. So I can see that getting a little frustrating. Maybe the pathing could have been somewhat better, but the polish, the action, everything about this game should have made it so much more successful and well-known than what it is. And it's still pretty cheap. I mean, it was. I don't know what it is now because I've had this game for so long, but I have an extra case of manual, so who knows if any of you guys have a loose disc, maybe we can work out a trade or all the giveaway or something. But that is a great one. I want to say I got it back in the day for like $8 complete, but it's probably going to be up around $20 now. Well worth it. I get it. I really liked it. All right, last couple here. So this one, oh my goodness, I played a lot of great games this week, guys. And this one, I played right after Blades of Time. And I remember being like, man, I want to play Blades of Time. And then I put this one in, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I want to play some more. Dead to Rights Retribution. So I've never played a Dead to Rights game. This is the first one. At the beginning of the game, you get to play as this dog, ripping people apart. There's even there's an achievement I got called Scrotality, when you attack someone from his crotch area as the dog. But super fun. The combat is hard hitting. You can do executes, you can steal weapons, you can use people as human shields, and then you can throw them off the building. And it's just a incredible time. There's kind of a slow down phase you can do, a focus. I was loving playing this. This is probably the one of all these games, as much as I enjoyed a lot of these other ones, I probably had the most fun with this one. The first mission, the first major mission, is basically Die Hard. You're going through a giant building, killing terrorists, trying to get to the main bad guy who escapes, and it's just non-stop fun. And I know the dog is in it. I apparently this is the third game, so I need to go look up at the other two games, because if the other two games are anything like this game, wow, what a fun series. Kind of a action-based brawler. Reminded me of Dynamite Cop a little bit on the Dreamcast, if I'm being honest, but super super brutal. The ability to throw people off of ledges, and just, oh, such a good time. And I can't wait till the doggo comes back and we can, it's just so many of these games are so incredible. I can't believe it. And still, this one, I think it's getting a little up there. I think it's more around $30-$40. I want to say I got lucky on mine. Now, I got one in rough condition and it doesn't have the manual. I think I paid $20 for it, and absolutely worth it. Worth it all day. All right, then the last game we have here, which was another risk. So this was another risk I bought on eBay, where it was just listed as the game, no picture, no anything. It was one of those eBay sellers where they have like 100 games listed and you just scroll through them. And looking at the picture, like the generic picture, I'm like, I think I see it in a case. So at least I'm going to get a case. It was listed for the disc-only version. And I never really heard about this game much as far as a good James Bond game until I'd seen RNG Gamer talk about it. I think I saw it some other places too. And that game is Bloodstone 007. And what makes this very cool is it's made by the same people who did Geometry Wars and Geometry Wars 2. Which, if you guys know, I love that game. So the fact that I'm playing a James Bond game, that felt great. It felt like actually playing a movie. Daniel Craig's in it. Judi Dench is in it. I played essentially the opening scene of the James Bond film, where you're driving a boat, doing some stealth section, taking people out, then having some high combat, and then you drive a car and chase down another car that has a bomb in it. All before the credits roll. For the singing. So I don't know if this is a take on Diamonds Are Forever, because Bloodstone makes me think it's that, or if it's an original story. But game felt extremely competent, and one that, I mean, if you can find it under 20 complete like I did, definitely jump on it. I think around complete it gets around 30, and I would say it's probably still worth it, especially if you're a James Bond fan. And there you have it. That is 11 more games that you need to pick up before prices continue to skyrocket. Though they seem to be evening out a little bit now. I mean, we've been doing this for almost 2 months. We'll see what happens come July. But hey, I am so grateful to have all you guys here. It has been so wonderful. Once again, the amount of growth is next level, and it's all thanks to you guys. I'm like, hey, to the 80% of you who haven't subscribed yet, maybe think of subscribing now, because I think that's my metrics, which, hey, 20% did, 80%, hey, that's good. I'll take it. It could be worse. I'm just glad to have whoever's here, the repeat comments. Thank you so much. Thank you guys coming in here every week, making these videos make sense and allow me to get a bunch more Xbox 360 games to show off, because I've really been enjoying checking out the 360. It's funny. I thought that I had a lot of great games back in the day, but man, some of these ones that I've been playing, it's just like there is so many great games on it, and it's nice. It's nice, especially when I'm kind of turned off on modern games again. I mean, the Summer Games Fest happened. I was trying to watch it. Everything, I can tell you, I could sum up every single game of Summer's Games Fest. It's either, oh my God, I walked in and you told me we were having a baby and it's not mine. And then that's what's in the guy's monologue as he's moving through some surreal mindscape, or it's another first-person shooter or live service game. I mean, that honestly, that's it. Meanwhile, I put in these games, and yeah, I'm still having first-person shooter experiences, but it's quick, it's to the point. There's no bloat, there's no BS. I don't know. But yes, that's what you get for this week, guys. As a reminder, it's been so nice getting a hold of you. Take care.